Dear friends, subscribe to my channel Viral Story Hub. Make my channel famous. Your support helps us grow and share more stories. Absolutely, a great initiative.
Silent in her gray uniform, eyes lowered, but her mind tracked patterns his analysts failed to see. He owned towers, jets, and a billion-dollar tech empire built on an algorithm praised across markets. Yet the same algorithm was bleeding money slowly, and no one in that glossy room understood why. She cleaned his glass desk daily, listening quietly as executives argued about invisible coding flaws. At night, after finishing chores, she studied finance videos to help her son dream beyond survival. Her boy believed his mother worked in management, not knowing she endured humiliation for school fees. That morning, she noticed a small, repeated error flashing on the trading dashboard behind him. It was a simple loop mistake, hidden deep, but powerful enough to drain millions every hour. And when he laughed again, she realized his empire was collapsing not from enemies, but arrogance. Investor smiles looked calm on the surface, yet their phones kept vibrating with relentless loss notifications. He dismissed every alert casually, blaming unstable foreign markets, never suspecting danger inside his own system. She stepped closer to the massive screen, pretending to wipe dust while studying the deep red falling candles. The same sharp decline repeated every single hour, forming a pattern she recognized from late-night study. Her pulse quickened, not because of his insult, but because her son's school tuition depended on this job. One honest sentence could protect his empire from collapse, yet destroy the fragile respect she barely held. He laughed again and said, "Even she couldn't solve this mess," pointing at her like she was invisible. A few executives chuckled politely, but one junior analyst watched her closely, sensing something different. She adjusted the frame slowly, eyes locked onto a duplicated execution code flashing each cycle. The system was placing repeated trades automatically, multiplying losses in silent and dangerous waves. Her fingers tightened around the cleaning cloth as she imagined her son waiting with homework at home. Then she gathered her courage and softly spoke 4 words that silenced the powerful boardroom instantly. She said calmly, "Your system is duplicating trades," and the entire boardroom turned toward her in stunned disbelief. For a long second, silence spread across the tall glass walls, as if even the conditioned air refused to circulate. He stopped laughing immediately, his confident smile fading, while investors stared sharply between her and the screen. One senior executive leaned toward another and whispered that security should remove her for interrupting a critical meeting. But she did not step back or lower her gaze, her voice steady as she pointed toward the repeating timestamp error. She explained that a small hidden loop inside the execution code was firing automated orders twice every cycle. The junior analyst hurriedly checked his tablet, and the color drained from his face within seconds. He confirmed that the duplication error was real and had been silently draining millions every hour. Uneasy murmurs filled the boardroom, no longer mocking laughter, but heavy waves of fear and realization. The billionaire's jaw tightened visibly as wounded pride battled against the undeniable truth before him. For the first time in years, he saw not a maid in uniform, but a mind sharper than his entire elite team. And in that powerful moment, control shifted quietly across the room, not through wealth, but through courage. He demanded proof immediately, his voice cutting through the tension as he tried to regain control of a room slipping away fast. The analyst projected her explanation onto the main screen, isolating the hidden loop buried deep within thousands of code lines. Streams of numbers scrolled rapidly across the display, exposing duplicated execution commands firing every 60 seconds. Investors leaned forward in their chairs, their earlier confidence gone, replaced by visible tension and guarded concern. She explained that the flaw began after a rushed software update was pushed live without proper stress testing. He remembered that night clearly, ignoring cautious warnings because competitors were releasing faster systems. Each duplicated trade seemed small alone, but together they created a silent and devastating financial leak. Dynamic graphs recalculated in real time, revealing how much capital had quietly vanished over recent weeks. One major investor stood abruptly, demanding to know how such a basic oversight escaped an elite tech team. No one responded immediately because the truth pointed directly toward leadership decisions driven by arrogance. He looked at her again, not with mockery or dismissal now, but with visible disbelief and growing regret. And for the first time in many years, he understood that pride could be more dangerous than competition. The chief investor spoke coldly, saying, "Trust, once broken in tech markets, is almost impossible to rebuild fully." Legal advisors began whispering about regulatory penalties if the duplicated trades were investigated publicly. His billion-dollar valuation suddenly felt fragile, like glass under invisible growing pressure. She stood quietly near the screen, unsure whether she had saved him or sealed her own fate. He asked her how she even understood such technical details without formal corporate training. She answered simply that she studied free online courses every night after finishing her shifts. She said she wanted to understand the world that controlled her son's future and opportunities. Her honesty carried no pride, only a mother's quiet determination to change her family story. The room absorbed her words, realizing talent sometimes hides where respect never looks. He remembered calling her just the maid only minutes earlier in front of everyone. Guilt began replacing his anger as the weight of his arrogance pressed against his chest. And deep inside, he feared losing more than money if this truth reached the outside world. He ordered the tech team to shut down live trading immediately before regulators noticed abnormal patterns. Screens across the boardroom turned from red to frozen gray as emergency protocols activated. Investors stepped aside to make urgent calls, their voices low but filled with controlled panic. He remained seated, staring at the woman he had dismissed only moments before. For the first time, he asked her name instead of referring to her by her job title. She answered softly, and the room heard it clearly, a name he had never cared to learn. He requested that she explain the full correction process step by step to the engineers. Her hands trembled slightly, yet her explanation was precise, confident, and structured. The junior analyst followed her guidance, rewriting the faulty loop in real time. Within minutes, simulations showed stability returning slowly to the trading algorithm. A quiet wave of relief passed through the room as projected losses stopped increasing. And in that silence, respect began replacing humiliation in the space between them. When the crisis settled, the investors requested a private word with him inside the glass office. Through transparent walls, she could see animated gestures and tense expressions directed at him. They questioned his leadership, asking how arrogance blinded him to such a basic structural flaw. One warned that public exposure would destroy not only stock value, but long-term credibility. He stood silent, absorbing criticism that echoed louder than any market alarm. For years, he believed authority meant never admitting weakness in front of others. Now weakness stood recorded on security cameras, replaying his mocking laughter. After the investors left, he walked slowly back into the main boardroom alone. She lowered her eyes, expecting termination instead of gratitude for speaking up. Instead, he stopped in front of her and removed his expensive suit jacket quietly. He said he owed her more than thanks. He owed her dignity he had taken publicly. And in front of the entire team, he apologized without excuses for his words. The apology was not loud or dramatic, but it carried weight heavier than the losses flashing on screens hours earlier. He admitted openly that success had built invisible walls around him, blocking respect for people beyond titles. In front of the entire board, he offered her a formal leadership role inside the company's tech division. He said skill and integrity mattered more than background, uniform, or the position someone once held. She paused for a long moment, thinking not about pride, but about stability and her son's future security. She accepted the opportunity calmly, not for revenge or applause, but to prove growth defeats humiliation. Weeks later, the corrected algorithm restored investor confidence and stabilized the company's falling market value. During a major press conference, he introduced her as the analyst who prevented a silent corporate collapse. Media headlines shifted quickly from scandal risk to a powerful story of accountability and transformation. At home that evening, her son watched the interview proudly, finally understanding his mother's hidden strength. The billionaire began mentoring overlooked employees personally, remembering how close arrogance had come to ruin. Every silent tear carries a story. Like this video, subscribe.